آله وصحبه وسلم، وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله، وأشهد أن نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم تسليما. This is a continuation in Kitab التوحيد, and today inshallah the subject is concerning a very important and delicate issue, and this is the subject of intercession and what it means in this life and in the hereafter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in his book, وَمَنْ يَشْفَعْ شَفَاعَةً حَسَنَةً وَمَنْ يَشْفَعْ شَفَاعَةً حَسَنَةً فَلَهُ إيش؟
يكن له نصيب منها.
يكن له نصيب منها. تكمل الآية ومن يشفع شفاعة سيئة
يكن له كفل منها.
جزاك الله خير. So in this verse Allah mentions two kinds of shafa'as, two kinds of intercessions. One, Allah calls it hasana. Hasana means good, beautiful. Hasan means beautiful. Ahsan means the most beautiful. That's why Allah chose Ahsan for his names. He said, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءِ الْحُسْنَى. Husna is the plural of Ahsan, not Hasan. You see? Yeah. So the intercession is, there is a beautiful intercession. And it could be here in this life, and it could be in the hereafter. And there is an ugly or bad intercession. And it could be here, and it could be in the hereafter. So, also the verses of Quran divide the intercessions into two types in another way. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ, that there is an intercession, but with the condition of being permitted, allowed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So there is an approved kind of intercession. Okay. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in other verses, مَا لَهُمْ مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ مِن وَلِيٍّ وَلَا شَفِيعٍ. They have no one who can intercede for them. You see? And he says, وَكَمْ مِن مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُم مِّنَ اللَّهِ شَيْئًا. Angels who are in heavens, and their intercessions are denied. You see? So we have an intercession which is approved, and an intercession which is denied. Okay. So in light of this, we go to the details now. What is the good intercession? And what is the approved intercession? The good intercession is to put some effort to bring justice for someone who would not get his right in this life without someone interceding for him. You see? So you go to the person who has some authority, okay, and because you know him or some other reason, he would not turn you down. So you intercede for someone who could not reach that person, okay? And this is a good intercession as long as you get his right only, and you don't give him someone else's right, because this is not just. And if you do that in the name of intercession, you will be mocking Quran. You see, you cannot call Tawheed shirk or vice versa, and you cannot call ugly injustice, you cannot call it intercession. You see, the name doesn't change the facts. You see, so like unfortunately a lot of so-called wasta here, wasta is intercession in our country and many other Gulf countries and most of the Arab countries. it's all kind of ugly intercessions. Okay, most of them are ugly intercessions. Okay, يعني someone who has a high degree, whom he has earned by a lot of effort and maybe spending a lot of money and a lot of years and all that, and yet someone else comes and take things much easier without spending that much time, without having any degree, without anything. He becomes his boss by intercessions. Okay, this is very bad and very ugly. Now this is regarding the intercession in this life, the good and bad. In the hereafter, the intercession is according to two conditions. The good intercession is according to two conditions. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, لا يشفعون إلا من بعد إذنه ولا يشفعون إلا لمن ارتضى. That they will not intercede, meaning on the day of judgment, for anyone without God's permission. And this goes true for anyone who wants to intercede, including the best of mankind, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. He is no exception in this, you see. Jesus is no exception. Moses is no exception. No other one is an exception. Okay. And the other condition here in the verse, وَلَا يَشْفَعُونَ إِلَّا لِمَنِ ارْتَضَى. They cannot intercede except for those who Allah has been pleased with their action. And Allah would not be pleased with someone's action if he meets him with shirk and with kufr. You see, it has to be Islam and it has to be Tawheed. Therefore, no one can intercede for a mushrik on the day of judgment. Ibrahim cannot intercede for his father. Our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, when he was asked about his father and mother, as narrated in Sahih Muslim, he said, my father is in hellfire, my mother is in hellfire. His own father and mother, he would not be able to intercede for them on the day of judgment. And his uncle, Abu Talib, who did so much good to him in this life, but who did not accept to become a Muslim, even though the Prophet ﷺ was trying with him until the last minute where his soul was pulled out of his body. And he said, I'd rather die on the religion of my ancestors. Yani, I don't want to be shamed by people, you see. So, on the day of judgment, the Prophet ﷺ will not intercede to take Abu Talib out of hellfire. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because Abu Talib has done so much good to the Prophet ﷺ and helped him and in difficult ways, and he faced a lot of difficulties, Allah will make him an exception not to be down deep in hellfire, to be in the upper part of hellfire, in which only stones from fire will be touching his feet while his brain will be boiling. And that is the least punishment in hellfire. Even the Muslims who are taken to hellfire because of their bad deeds, they will be in that, what you call it, طبقة,
layer.
huh?
Layer.
That layer, okay? So Abu Talib will not be taken out of hellfire. He will remain there. But he will have this punishment which is compared to those who are in hellfire. This is much, much, much less, you see. And the Prophet ﷺ made it clear. He said, "O Abbas, my uncle, become a Muslim and do right deeds, because I cannot help you from Allah if you die as a non-Muslim. Or Auntie Safiya, same thing. Or Fatima, who was a Muslim. Or Fatima, my daughter, the daughter of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. I cannot help you if Allah wants to put you in hellfire. Yani meaning, if you become a non-Muslim and die on that, you see. So this is regarding the hereafter. The Prophet ﷺ has many intercessions, not one intercession. He has, according to some of the scholars, like the one who explained Al-Aqidah Tahawiyya, which is a beautiful book actually. His explanation is very beautiful. And also it is lengthy, and it's a big book of around 500 pages by a Hanafi scholar, Ibn Abi al-Izz al-Hanafi, rahimahullah. It's the best explanation for the Tahawi's book of Aqidah. Imam Tahawi was an early scholar who was Shafi'i first, then he became Hanafi. And he did not become Hanafi in the sense that he was blind following Abu Hanifa. No. You see, he was only taking the fundamentals of Imam Abu Hanifa regarding the issues of fiqh, jurisdiction. But he was not a blind follower. As a matter of fact, once in a certain issue, someone discussed with him about that issue, and Imam Tahawi had an opinion which is different than his Imam Abu Hanifa. So the other scholar noticed it, and he said, "Are you not Hanafi?" He said, "Yes, but no one follows blindly except an ignorant or a stooge." He told him, وَهَلْ يُقَلِّدْ إِلَّا جَاهِلْ أَوْ غَبِي? He said, no one follows blindly when the truth is shown to him, except someone who's a stooge or deep in ignorance. Otherwise, and there is no problem. You be a Hanafi, you be Maliki, you be Shafi'i, you be Hanbali, no problem. But when the truth is shown to you, supported by the proofs, then that's the madhab of Abu Hanifa. Because Abu Hanifa said, إِذَا صَحَّ الْحَدِيثُ فَهُوَ مَذْهَبِي. When the hadith is proven to be true, then that is my way. That is my madhab. And he said to some of his students, do not follow me blindly. I say something today and I change tomorrow, maybe. And I might say something tomorrow and change after tomorrow, you see. And when the truth is shown to me, I will change. So why are you differing from me in this principle? And you want to stick to my opinion only? This is not following Abu Hanifa, actually. You see, Abu Hanifa was a very pious man, similarly the Shafi'i, similarly Imam Malik, similarly Imam Ahmad, and they all forbidden their students from blind following. So the Prophet ﷺ has many shafa'as, 8 or 9 shafa'as on the Day of Judgment, amongst them 2 for the Muslims who are sinners. Some of them, the Prophet ﷺ will intercede for them and they will not enter hellfire altogether. And some of them will be taken out of hellfire by his intercession. Okay. And this kind of intercession is not special of the Prophet ﷺ, like the first intercession, which we mentioned many times, which is called the grand intercession, الشفاعة العظمى, in which the Prophet ﷺ intercedes for all people, for everyone, so that Allah relieves them from waiting that long, severe day, and judge them and decide whether they will be going to paradise or hellfire. Okay, that grand intercession is for the Prophet ﷺ. And this is one of the meanings of the verse. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لِيَبْعَثَكَ مَقَامًا مَحْمُودًا, so that Allah will elevate you to a praiseworthy position. And this is a praiseworthy position. Okay, so we will not go now in detail, but I'm saying this because the grave worshippers nowadays accuse us who say, don't consider a human like you in this life to intercede for you now in this life, you see, to intercede between you and Allah in this life, because this is shirk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, قُلْ لِلَّهِ الشَّفَاعَةُ جَمِيعًا. To Allah, say, to Allah belongs all the intercession. So you cannot go to anyone, you see. The intercession belongs to Allah. And in this life, how do you know He's given the permission? You don't know. It has to be by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah said in His book, لا يشفعون إلا من بعد إذنه. And on the day of judgment, when the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam will intercede, he will only intercede after the permission. Both in the grand intercession and in the other intercessions. You see, in the grand intercession, he says, I come and prostrate under the throne of Allah until and remain in prostration, praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with praises that He will inspire me then, until it is said, O Muhammad, raise your head, ask and you will be given, intercede and your intercession will be accepted. You see, even though he knows that he is the only one for this kind of intercession, but he knows also very well that no intercession is without Allah's permission. So that's why he comes and prostrates, waiting for the permission. And even when he intercedes for Muslims who are taken to hellfire, or Muslims who deserve to go to hellfire, and Allah wants them not to be punished altogether, the Prophet ﷺ will be given permission. As he said, فَيُحَدُّ لِي حَدًّا فَأَشْفَعُ فِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يُحَدُّ لِي حَدًّا فَأَشْفَعُ فِيهِمْ. A limit would be set for me, and only within that limit I can intercede. And then another limit would be set for me, and within that limit I will intercede. فَيُحَدُّ لِي حَدًّا. Meaning Allah will set a limit for him. Okay, Muhammad, intercede for those people. 1, 2, 3, whatever. Finished, another limit will be set. Intercede for those. You see? Why? Because no one owns to intercede without the permission of Allah. Because Allah owns all intercession. قُلْ لِلَّهِ الشَّفَاعَةُ جَمِيعًا. And those grave worshippers nowadays claim that we deny intercession. They said, oh, you Wahhabis deny intercession. Huh? How could you deny intercession? They said. Okay. When there are proofs in Quran about intercession, proofs in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ about intercession. So we tell them that intercessions are not one kind, you see. And as I said earlier about the classifications of the intercession. Now, this is just an introduction. The author did not say here, like he said before, it is from shirk. Intercession is from shirk. Why? Because as we mentioned, some of intercession is good, both in this life and in the hereafter. And some of the intercession is ugly and bad and shirk. So this is, or some of it in this life might not be shirk, but it's haram. You cannot intercede, as we said, in a way to do injustice. He brought the verse وأنذر به الذين يخافون أن يحشروا إلى ربهم ليس لهم من دونه ولي ولا شفيع. This verse Allah is saying about the kafirs, or actually warn those who fear to be resurrected to meet with their Lord. So it's not only the kafirs. They have no one who can intercede for them. They have no one who can intercede for them. So this is the kind that is denied, as we explained earlier. So if this is the case with those who know that they will be resurrected and they fear the outcome, meaning they are believers, you see. So how about the unbelievers, you see? Yani Allah is telling the Prophet ﷺ to warn the believers that don't do something which will deprive you from being interceded for on the Day of Judgment, you see. And then the saying of Allah that we mentioned, قُلْ لِلَّهِ الشَّفَاعَةُ جَمِيعًا, to Allah belongs all intercession. And this is a big reply on the Christians, on the Jews, on the Hindus, on the Buddhists, on the so-called Muslims who worship the graves and the people who are in the graves. This is a clear refutation of their actions, you see. To Allah belongs all intercession. You see, and you are saying, whether you are Christian or Jew or Hindu or whatever, you are claiming that just because you love such and such, then you are okay because he will intercede for you. You see, this is the common belief. You see, not only with Christians, no, all other false religions that exist nowadays, including the so-called Muslims who worship the engraved. This is their belief. Yani, they call this belief, and if you don't have this, they say you don't have i'tiqad in the walis or in the sheikhs. I'tiqad means firm belief and faith, you know. See, the opposite of faith, they call it faith. The opposite of tawheed is tawheed. The opposite of shirk is shirk. The opposite of innovation is innovation. Nowadays, if you say there is no such thing as celebrating the birth of the Prophet ﷺ, this was only a habit which was brought by Shias in the 5th century of Islam by the Fatimids, so-called Fatimids. They had power and they controlled some areas. And they said, since the Christians celebrate the birth date of Jesus, then we should celebrate our Prophet's birthday. Our Prophet is better than theirs.
But if you look at the way they celebrate,
yeah,
Christmas is not really a celebration of Jesus. It's just a big time to have sales in just about every store.
Right.
Very seldom do you hear anything about Jesus in the advertisement.
Right.
Very seldom do you see a tree that's supposedly a Christmas tree without presents under it. I mean, it's gone so commercial where there's no room for Christ in Christmas.
No way. Yani they are mocking Jesus. They are mocking Jesus. They are mocking the commandments. Okay. What kind of celebration is this in which, you know, at the minute the next day comes, everyone goes and kisses each other? Okay. What kind of celebration? This is a mockery, okay?
Also, show me anywhere in the Bible where it mentions Santa Claus.
Right. Nothing like this. And therefore, it's by the consensus of all 4 Imams of Ahl-Sunnah. There is no such thing as celebration of the day of the Prophet ﷺ. Plus, this day is unknown. Historically, it's unknown. So you are celebrating an illusion. Just like the celebration of Jesus The day is not that day that they are celebrating. Similarly, Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay. And we have no basis at all, because the companions of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam who loved him the best, if celebrating his birth time was something good, they would be the first to do it. And yet, they didn't pay any attention to it. Then the next generation is the best after the companions, and they did not pay any attention to that. And then the next, and they are the best after those, and they didn't pay any attention to it. And then we have the 4 known imams, who, those people who are celebrating the birthday, they claim to be either Shafi'i or Hanafi or Hanbali or Maliki. Neither Imam Malik, nor Imam Shafi'i, nor Imam Abu Hanifa, nor Imam Ahmad okayed this celebration or mentioned it even. You don't have it mentioned by them, you see, which shows it was only introduced in the 5th century of Islam. 500 years or more after the death of the Prophet ﷺ, this was started. And now if you deny it, you are the innovator. You are the innovator. How could you? People are sitting beautifully in the masjid and all this and all this. No, it's not sitting beautifully in the masjid. Innovation is ugly. You cannot make it beautiful by go and sit in the masjid or whatever you do. You can go and sit in the masjid anytime, you see. But to specify something in a certain way, in a certain day, this needs proofs from the Book of Allah and the Sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because it's a worship. To celebrate this day is a worship, and every worship must be based by a proof, based on a proof. And then,
did you say that they're called Fatimids?
Fatimids, yeah. They claim to be Fatimids, descendants of Fatima.
Oh.
But they have nothing to do with Fatima. They are from Bani Ubayd al-Qaddah. Okay? Another, totally different. They has nothing to do with Fatima. Okay? And even if they were descendants of Fatima, so what? If they commit shirk and do innovations, then the next verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, مَنْ ذَا الَّذِي يَشْفَعُ عِنْدَهُ إِلَّا بِإِذْنِهِ. Who is to intercede with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala without his permission? And we mentioned that. And then the saying of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَكَمْ مِنْ مَلَكٍ فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ لَا تُغْنِي شَفَاعَتُهُمْ شَيْئًا إِلَّا مِنْ بَعْدِ أَنْ يَأْذَنَ اللَّهُ لِمَنْ يَشَاءُ وَيَرْضَى. We mentioned it also, that there are so many angels in heavens whose intercession will be denied.